Berlin, January 7th, 1930, in a secret meeting room in the Reichsbank. Hjalmar Schacht, Germany's most brilliant economist, sits alone at his desk staring at numbers that will end his career and possibly cost him his life. 12 billion Reichsmarks in hidden debt. Bills coming due in months, no money to pay them. He writes his final report to Adolf Hitler. Drastic curtailment of expenditures, return to a balanced budget. This is the only method of preventing catastrophic inflation and economic collapse. His hand shakes slightly as he signs it, not from fear, though he has every reason to be afraid, from rage at what he's built, rage at what's coming, rage at himself for being brilliant enough to create this monster, but not brave enough to stop it years ago, when it might have mattered. 13 days later, January 20th, 1939, Hitler fires him. 7 months after that, Germany invades Poland. This is how World War II truly began. Not with ideology alone, not with territorial ambition alone, but with an economy designed to require conquest to survive. An economy built on fake companies, hidden debt, and promises that could only be kept through theft and war. For those of us who remember that war, who lived through its shadow, who lost fathers and brothers and friends to it, understanding how it happened isn't just history. It's the warning we owe to those who come after us. If you want to understand how economic desperation turned a civilized nation into a war machine, stay with me. This story will change everything you thought you knew about World War II. Let me take you back to November 23, to a moment so catastrophic that it broke an entire generation's faith in money itself. A single American dollar is worth 4 trillion German marks, not 4,000, not 4 million, 4 trillion. Picture a German factory worker in Berlin named Ernst. He's 40 years old, married, 2 children. He's worked at the same factory for 20 years, saved carefully, bought bonds, did everything right. His wife, Maria, kept their savings in marks hidden in the house because they didn't trust banks after the wartime inflation. In November 1923, Ernst gets paid at lunchtime. He immediately runs to Maria with his wages. She takes the money and runs to the market, not walks, runs. Because in the time it takes to walk leisurely, prices will rise. She buys potatoes, bread, anything she can carry. By evening, the money Ernst earned that morning has lost half its value. The life insurance policy Ernst's father had paid into for 30 years, meant to take care of the family after his death, matures. The payout can't buy a loaf of bread. 30 years of payments gone. Ernst and Maria sit at their kitchen table that night, looking at their life savings. It's worth less than the furniture in their house, less than the dishes in their cupboard. Everything they worked for wiped out in months. Multiply Ernst and Maria by millions. That's the Weimar hyperinflation. That's the trauma that shaped an entire generation. Germany slowly recovered. A financial genius named Hjalmar Schacht ended the hyperinflation by creating a new currency backed by land, the Rentenmark. It worked. Money meant something again. Ernst found work. Maria could plan for the future. Their children could dream of better lives. The wounds began to heal. Then the Great Depression. Ernst loses his job. The factory closes. He's 50 years old now, too old for most employers to consider, too young to retire. He stands in unemployment lines with men half his age, engineers, teachers, lawyers, all desperate for any work. By 1932, 6 million Germans are unemployed. The Weimar government, paralyzed by political infighting, does nothing effective. Communist and Nazi street battles turn cities into war zones. Ernst and Maria, who survived 1923, who rebuilt their lives, now watch it collapse again. This is the second economic catastrophe in 14 years. People stop believing in recovery. They start believing in anyone who promises strength, certainty, a return to greatness. Enter Adolf Hitler. January 30th, 1990, he becomes chancellor. Ernst, politically moderate his entire life, votes Nazi in the March elections. Not because he agrees with everything they say, but because he's desperate. Because his children are hungry, because 14 years of economic chaos has broken his faith in democracy. He's not alone. Millions of Ernsts make the same choice. Hitler promises to rebuild Germany, to restore the military, to make Germany respected again. But here's his problem. Germany is bankrupt. The Treaty of Versailles limits Germany to 100,000 soldiers. No tanks, no aircraft, no submarines, no heavy artillery. And even without those restrictions, Germany has no money to build any of it. This is where Hjalmar Schacht re-enters the story. March 17th, 1933. Hitler appoints Schacht president of the Reichsbank. August 1934. Schacht becomes Minister of Economics. When Ernst hears this news, he feels relief. Schacht saved Germany in 1923. Schacht understands economics. Surely, Schacht will keep the extremists in check. Ernst doesn't know that Schacht is about to create the most dangerous financial mechanism in modern history. Hitler tells Schacht exactly what he needs: massive rearmament, done secretly, without triggering inflation, without foreign powers noticing until too late. Invisible money, it's an impossible problem. Schacht solves it. July 10th, Schacht creates a company, Metallurgische Forschungsgesellschaft, BIMFO for short. On paper, it's a research consortium owned by 4 industrial giants: Siemens, Krupp, Rheinmetall, Gutehoffnungshütte. Initial capital, 1 million Reichsmarks. In reality, MEFO does nothing. No research, no products, just an office, letterhead, and a bank account. It's a shell of fiction, but this fiction will arm Nazi Germany. Here's how Ernst experiences it, because Ernst gets his job back. The factory reopens in 1934. Suddenly, there are orders for steel, for machine parts, for industrial production. Ernst doesn't know why business is booming. He just knows he has work again. He can feed his family. Unemployment drops from 6 million to under 2 million by 1936. It feels like a miracle. What Ernst doesn't know is how it works. The factory owner receives orders from the government, but instead of payment in Reichsmarks, he receives MEFO Bills, promissory notes from this research company, payable in 5 years. The owner takes these bills to his bank. The bank, knowing the Reichsbank backs them, gives him cash, real money. The owner pays Ernst his wages. Ernst buys food. Life normalizes. The MEFO bills never appear on official government balance sheets. They're private obligations, invisible to foreign intelligence services. Between 1934 and this war, Germany issues 12 billion Reichsmarks in MEFO bills. Germany's entire national debt in 1930 was 10 billion Reichsmarks. Germany secretly created more debt than its total existing debt, and nobody outside Germany understood the scope. By 1936, Ernst notices something else. New roads being built everywhere. The Autobahn, modern highways cutting across Germany, new factories, new construction, young men in uniform marching through streets. It feels like strength returning, like Germany becoming great again. What Ernst doesn't see is what foreign powers don't see either. Germany has violated every military restriction of the Treaty of Versailles. Thousands of tanks, thousands of aircraft, submarines, a modern mechanized army, all built with invisible money. In March 1936, Hitler remilitarizes the Rhineland. Britain and France don't intervene. They don't realize how far German rearmament has progressed. March 38. Germany annexes Austria. Ernst's younger brother Karl lives in Vienna. Karl writes, "The German troops arrived with modern equipment, perfect organization. It was impressive and terrifying." What Karl doesn't mention, what he doesn't know, is that Germany desperately needed Austria's gold reserves. The MEFO Bills are starting to mature. Germany needs money. By 1937, Hjalmar Schacht understands what's coming. He's not the only one. Other Reichsbank directors see the numbers. They know the spending is unsustainable. In September 1937, 3 Reichsbank board members resign in protest. Nobody reports it. The press is controlled. Ernst doesn't hear about it. In 1938, Schacht submits increasingly desperate warnings to Hitler. The economy is overheating. Inflation is creeping back. The MEFO bills will come due. Where will Germany find 12 billion Reichsmarks? Hitler's response is always the same. Germany will expand. Germany will take what it needs. Economics will solve itself through conquest. Schacht realizes he's created a machine he can't control. He built it brilliant enough to hide Germany's rearmament from the world, but he built it with a fatal flaw. The bills come due. And now Hitler's solution is war. In late 1938, Schacht makes a choice. He could stay silent, keep his position, let events unfold, or he could speak truth to power one final time, knowing it will cost him everything. January 7th, 1939. He writes his report, drastic cuts, balanced budget. It's the only way to prevent collapse. He submits it, knowing what will happen. January 20th. Hitler fires him. Schacht later writes, "I built the machine that armed Hitler. I thought I could control it. I was wrong." But MEFO bills weren't the only mechanism. Let me tell you about the Volkswagen because Ernst signed up for it. The People's Car program starts in 1938. Pay 5 Reichsmarks per week. Eventually you'll own a car. For Ernst, this is a dream. He's worked his whole life and never owned an automobile. He signs up. Maria is skeptical, but Ernst is optimistic. The government says they'll deliver them. Schacht wouldn't let them lie. By 1939, 336,000 Germans have signed up. They've collectively paid 2 million Reichsmarks into the program. Ernst has paid for 18 months. He calculates he'll get his Volkswagen in 1942. September 1939. Germany invades Poland. Ernst's oldest son, now 22, is drafted. The Volkswagen factory is converted to military production. The Kubelwagen, a military vehicle. No civilian Volkswagens are produced, not one. Ernst keeps paying into the program through 1940 because stopping means losing everything he's already paid. The government assures everyone the cars will come after the war. Ernst pays until 1940 when he finally accepts it's a scam. He's paid 5 Reichsmarks per week for 5 years. on 300 Reichsmarks total, gone. The government stole from him while claiming to help him. Ernst won't receive compensation until 1901, 18 years after he stops paying. By then, Maria is dead. His oldest son never came back from Stalingrad. The Volkswagen he dreamed of owning mocks him from every advertisement. The looting went far beyond fake companies and domestic theft. When Germany conquered countries, they didn't just take military control, they systematically stripped everything. Austria, March 1938. Germany seizes Austrian gold reserves, foreign currency, industrial assets, everything transferred to Berlin. Ernst's brother Karl writes, "They inventoried every bank, every business. They took it all." September 1938. The Sudetenland. Germany takes Czech border regions. Industrial capacity, resources. March 1939. Germany occupies the rest of Czechoslovakia. The Škoda Works, one of Europe's finest arms factories, seized. Czechoslovakia's gold reserves taken. Ernst reads about this in newspapers that celebrate German expansion. The articles never mention the theft. They talk about German might, German destiny. September 1913, Germany invades Poland. The conquest brings agricultural production, industrial capacity, resources, and millions of people who will be forced into labor. Ernst doesn't know this yet. He believes Germany is defending itself. The newspapers say Poland attacked first. Ernst wants to believe it because his son is fighting there. By 1940, Ernst begins hearing things, whispers from workers transferred to occupied territories. They speak quietly about what they've seen. Factories in Poland using labor from camps. People worked until they die, then replaced. Ernst doesn't want to believe it. He tells himself it must be exaggerated, must be enemy propaganda. But the whispers continue. Companies Ernst knows, Siemens, Krupp, the same companies that own MF, the fake company that gave him his job back. They're using slave labor from concentration camps. Prisoners work to death building weapons, manufacturing parts, mining resources. The economic model isn't just immoral, it requires this. Ernst lies awake at night thinking about his job, his wages, the steel his factory produces. Is he part of this? Maria, before she dies in 1943, tells him, "We didn't know. We couldn't have known. We were just trying to survive." Ernst isn't sure anymore what he knew or should have known. In France, after Germany conquers it in June 1940, occupation costs are imposed. France pays Germany 400 million francs per day for the privilege of being occupied. France pays for German troops on French soil. The money funds broader German operations. In occupied Soviet territories, Germany plans to extract grain, oil, minerals, timber. The entire economic model is parasitic. Germany can only survive by consuming others. And it all traces back to those MEFO bills. The bills that came due in 1930, the bills Germany couldn't pay without conquest. Hitler didn't choose war just because of ideology, though his ideology was evil enough. He chose war because the economy he'd built with Schacht's genius required it. The MEFO system, brilliant as it was, had created a financial time bomb. When it detonated, the only way to survive the blast was to take what Germany needed from others. Austria bought time. Czechoslovakia bought more time. Poland, France, the Soviet Union. Each conquest delayed the final reckoning. But conquest requires spending, more weapons, more equipment, more costs. Each victory created new obligations, pushed the final collapse further into the future while making it more catastrophic when it finally came. Historians debate whether the war was inevitable. Some, like Adam Tooze in his book The Wages of Destruction, argue that the Nazi economy was structurally designed to require expansion, that collapse or conquest were the only options. Others argue that economic pressure, severe as it was, didn't make war inevitable. Hitler's ideology did. He wanted war. The economy gave him an excuse and made him more desperate. But he chose this path. The truth is probably both. Hitler's racial ideology, his desire for Lebensraum, his belief in German destiny, these drove his decisions. But the economy Schacht created meant that by 1939, pulling back wasn't just ideologically unacceptable to Hitler. It was economically catastrophic. The Nazi regime would fall if the MEFO Bills defaulted, if banks collapsed, if unemployment surged back to 6 million. Hitler's choice wasn't just between peace and war. It was between expansion and regime collapse. So he expanded, and millions died. Ernst survives the war, barely. His oldest son dead at Stalingrad, his younger son crippled on the Western Front. Maria dead from illness in 1943, worn out by stress and deprivation. Ernst himself is 62 when the war ends in 1940. He sits in the ruins of his city, his factory destroyed by Allied bombing, and tries to understand what happened. He voted for Hitler in 1933 because he was desperate after 2 economic collapses. He wanted his job back, wanted to feed his family, wanted Germany to be stable again. He got his job back. Unemployment fell. New roads were built. It seemed like recovery. What he didn't know was that the recovery was built on debt that had to be paid with other people's blood, on MEFO bills that required conquest to honor, on a system designed to either expand infinitely or collapse catastrophically. Ernst asks himself, could I have known? Should I have known? When did economic recovery become preparation for war? When did wanting a job become complicity in genocide? He has no good answers, just guilt, grief, and the ruins of everything he believed in. For those of us who remember World War II, who lived through its aftermath, who rebuilt from the ashes, Ernst's story is familiar. Maybe he was our father, our uncle, our neighbor, a good man who made understandable choices in desperate circumstances and ended up enabling catastrophe. Understanding Ernst doesn't excuse what happened, but it explains how it happened, how economic desperation makes populations accept strongmen, how financial manipulation can hide the true cost of policies until it's too late, how systems can be designed to require evil to survive. Hjalmar Schacht was tried at Nuremberg after the war. He was acquitted. The prosecutors couldn't prove he'd known about the Holocaust or planned aggressive war. He'd been fired by Hitler in 1939, which suggested he'd opposed the regime's direction. But the judges noted that while Schacht might not be legally guilty of war crimes, his financial genius had enabled the Nazi war machine. Without the MEFO bills, without the hidden financing, Germany couldn't have rearmed in secret. Without secret rearmament, the war might not have happened when and how it did. Schacht lived until he aged 93. He never fully acknowledged his role. He maintained he was just an economist doing his job, trying to rebuild Germany's economy, unaware of where it would lead. But that January 1939 report proves he knew. He understood the system he'd built required conquest. He warned Hitler it would end in catastrophe. He was ignored. The lesson isn't just about Nazi Germany. It's about recognizing patterns, economic desperation and demagogues, financial systems designed to hide costs, leaders who promise simple solutions to complex problems, populations who accept authoritarian measures because they're desperate for stability. These patterns recur throughout history. Understanding how they led to World War II helps us recognize them if they emerge again. The MEFO Bills specifically show how financial innovation can be used for evil. Schacht created something brilliant, a mechanism to fund massive projects without immediate payment, without triggering inflation, without foreign oversight. In different hands, for different purposes, it might have been beneficial, but in Hitler's hands, it became the financing mechanism for history's most destructive war. The war killed 50 to 85 million people. It devastated Europe. It produced the Holocaust. And it was funded, in significant part, by fake bills from a fake company that hid 12 billion Reichsmarks in debt from the world until it was too late to stop what was coming. Ernst, if he were alive today, would be over 140 years old. He's not. He died in 1908, never fully at peace with his choices, never sure where economic survival ended and moral complicity began. But his story lives on. Not to judge him, but to understand. To recognize that good people in desperate circumstances can enable evil. That economic systems can be designed to require catastrophe. That financial manipulation can hide costs until they become unpayable, except through theft and war. For those of us who remember that war, who lost people to it, who rebuilt from it, this isn't abstract economic theory. This is family history. This is why we say never again. This is why we remain vigilant against demagogues who promise easy solutions. This is why we question financial systems that hide their true costs. This is why we remember not to assign blame to people like Ernst who were trying to survive, but to understand the systems that trap them, to recognize warning signs, to refuse to let economic desperation drive us into moral catastrophe. Hjalmar Schacht's MEFO bills were brilliant and terrible. They hid the cost of war until war became the only option. They turned economic recovery into preparation for conquest. They made World War II possible. Understanding how they worked, why they were created, what they required to survive, this is how we honor those who died. By learning from what happened, by refusing to repeat it, by recognizing that economic systems are never neutral, that they embody choices, and that those choices have consequences measured in millions of lives. Thank you for staying with me through this history. If you learned something, if this changed how you understand the war, share it. The people who lived through it are leaving us. Soon, there will be no one left who remembers. All we'll have are the stories and the lessons. Make sure they're not forgotten.